Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Jones. Welcome to Interchange, and thank you so very much for joining us. Lots to talk about again today. The wife of the president of the Milwaukee School Board is given yet another six-figure job with that school district. Should the mayor of Sheboygan, an admitted alcoholic who embarrasses himself and the city, be forced to resign? And we'll talk about the Milwaukee Brewers. Is the rest of the season going to be a nail-biter, or are you pretty confident that they're going to continue to do really well? All right, let me introduce everybody. We have Kevin Fischer, longtime broadcaster, political analyst, and oftentimes a fill-in host over on WISN Talk Radio. Newspaper columnist Joel McNally. And Gerard Randall, education consultant and local job creation expert. Rick Horowitz, along with commentary at the end of the show. All right, let's get right into it. Last night, the Milwaukee School Board voted to give Kathy Bonds a six-figure job supervising other principals. This is the same Kathy Bonds who had to be removed from her job as principal at a dismally failing Custer High School in order for that school to qualify for this big federal grant last year. The same Kathy Bonds who was married to Michael Bonds, the president of the school board, who told the media earlier this summer that one of the reasons the couple had to file for bankruptcy was because his wife had lost her high-paying principal's job. Even if she is the most competent administrator in America, Kevin, this doesn't look very good.
It doesn't pass the smell test. I could be wrong about this, but I thought that MPS, as troubled a system as it is, does have some rules and regulations when it comes to nepotism. It's been well documented for years and years that underachieving, underperforming, high-level administrators never lose their jobs. They just get shuffled around from one place to another. And again, to suggest that they're bankrupt because the wife lost her job when she's going to have this now huge paying job again with a great benefit package, it's not good. You cannot explain your way out of this one. To the average person who pays the bills, who pays for these school taxes, it just doesn't look right.
With the population, the troubled population that MPS has, I do understand the argument that some people make. You cannot blame a principal for a school that's failing when so many of the kids in the school are failing and are developmentally disabled as well.
Well, and the No Child Left Behind Act has created this situation where you put labels on schools, and that dismisses the kids as being any good, it dismisses the teachers as being any good, and it dismisses the administrators as being any good. And it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. Kathy Bonds is very well qualified. Her career at MPS long preceded Michael Bonds becoming even a member of the school board, let alone president of the school board. She had a 27-year career as a principal at every level, elementary school, middle school, and high school, and she won awards for her work. She is very well qualified. Spouses should not, somehow be, not allowed to be promoted in their jobs because of some political pressure on their spouse. We know why Michael Bonds is targeted in this community. He fought very successfully to protect the Milwaukee public school system, to stop the mayor from a takeover. The governor of the state of Wisconsin wanted to take over the school system and take it away from the community. The mayor, Michael Bonds, stood up, brought this community together. He has organized the Milwaukee School Board so that a unanimous decision was made to hire the highly qualified superintendent that is now running that system. The first school board president in history, in memory certainly, who has brought that school board together, a school board which was totally divided and at each other's throats, and now he has it functioning very well. His personal finances absolutely should be off the table here, and for people to attack...
He brought him up, though. He brought him up.
He had to, because the media asked him, well, you had to file for bankruptcy.
Now, you know all these.
This is outrageous. This is racism. The only reason that this woman is being attacked is because her husband stood up and won against the governor and mayor of this city and the Milwaukee Association of Commerce.
You know all these people pretty well. You can understand how this certainly looks like, whether it is or not, it certainly looks like Dr. Thornton protecting his buddy on the school board. To some people.
And it's very, if you understand the process, you would know that couldn't be further from the truth. what you have, first off, I want to echo a lot of what Joel said, an award-winning principal. She's received national awards, local awards, statewide awards from her professional peers as well as from educational organizations, even the U.S. Department of Ed. And she's got a long 27 to 30-year track record in MPS. So her record of achievement led to her being placed at Custer, a school where you had better than the 20% average of special needs students that MPS overall has. It had something closer to 30% special needs students. And when you are sent in as the last hope to turn a school around, and it doesn't work, primarily because the problems that school had just cried out for, let's pull everybody out and start over from scratch. That's what's mandated by No Child Left Behind. This wasn't a personal failing of Mrs. Bonds when it came to trying to turn that school around. If anything, everybody failed in trying to turn that school around. So she's pulled out, but they also recognized, in fact, through blind interviews, in the sense that these interview panels that were put together, they made the recommendations that were forwarded on to the superintendent for a final recommendation. So you start out where the superintendent doesn't even know who's going to come forward to him. You've got to go through this rigorous process of being interviewed and examined by your peers and by the school community first before you even get there. So she went through that gauntlet of examination. She ended up there. If you're the school board president, you gotta bail out on this whole thing because your own board members are going to have a fit.
He did recuse himself from the vote, but
yes, he did.
But that's somewhat meaningless because he still has power on that board. He still can be somewhat intimidating, if you will, and influential with the other board members, and it's still going to be greased right through. And I'm not saying anything personal against Mrs. Bonds.
Well,
it's just
sure are.
No, it's just that I didn't say she was a bad principal, but the process looks bad, especially when you have a situation where now she gets a better job, a job that's more or less created for her.
No. No.
Tell me what other school district in the state.
All school districts have
a supervisor of principals.
They have supervisors of principals in large districts, every single one of them.
And I think she is one of a handful of these people in the Milwaukee School District.
Right.
She's not the only one. There's like 5 or 6
well,
of them.
it's top heavy. We know the administration is very top heavy.
You've got 148 principals. I'm sorry, 175 principals, and 48 of them are new this year. There are probably going to be another 50 new next year.
And how many
you need to have? Well, but let's look at the size of the district. 175 schools.
You don't need all of these.
175 schools, and you don't need an administrator at each one?
Well, I didn't say that. You don't need, in some schools, 1, 2, 3, 4 vice principals.
Kevin, I love you dearly, but I disagree with you on this one.
That's fine.
If you run an organization, you need to have competent people running them. You need to have competent support for them.
And I could argue that that system right now isn't working. Because MPS, going back to what Howard Fuller told the Rotary Club when he became superintendent, you have a failed school system, and I don't think it's improved since he left.
All right, next topic. Let's talk about Sheboygan Mayor Bob Ryan for just a few minutes. He's an admitted alcoholic, and he apparently won a few-day bender in Elkhart Lake last weekend. The city council is upset. They're asking him to resign. They say his behavior is embarrassing to the city. He says he's not going to resign, but that he's going to get some intensive outpatient treatment. If you do believe that alcoholism is an illness, do you have any right or responsibility to ask the guy to quit his job if he said he's getting help?
Well, when I read this story, it reminded me of Union City, Indiana, the small town I grew up in, and I could not believe this had risen to the level of a news story that the mayor got drunk last weekend. That I give him a lot of credit for recognizing he needs help, he needs treatment, and for entering treatment. The idea of it becoming a political issue. I mean, the man was elected. He's had problems with alcohol in the past. The fact that he's getting treatment, more power to him, and treatment doesn't always work the first time either for alcoholics. We know that. We never know what it is that's going to work exactly, but it is a personal problem. If there is a professional problem with however he's handling his job, That's another question. But no one has even raised, that he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing as mayor, just that he embarrassed them because he went out and got drunk last weekend. It really is small time stuff, and I give him credit for at least recognizing he needs help, and anyone around him should do the same thing and try to pull with him to get him that help.
What about the council people that say he's embarrassing the city?
It's different in the sense that I applaud him for getting the help, for recognizing that he needs the help, and hopefully being persistent in trying to address the problem. But he's also in the public's eye as a leader, not as your everyday citizen. He has a responsibility for leadership. And if nothing else, he should have taken the opportunity to step aside while he was getting that treatment, and then come back into the responsibility, or to allow the voters a more immediate opportunity to decide whether or not they wanted him in that position. I don't doubt that there are going to be recalls that will probably arise from this if it's possible. I don't know how long he's been in the office that would allow for a recall to take place. But certainly when you've got all of the legislative body in lockstep saying we would prefer different leadership, he's going to have to respond to that. It won't be pretty. It will then lead to some dysfunctional government, because now the new effort is going to be focused on getting him to address his personal issues, and all of the other functions of government are going to take a back seat to that.
It seems, Kevin, like it would have been a wiser choice to say, I want to take a leave of absence for 3 months. I'm going to do some intensive inpatient therapy.
Maybe, but then that also disrupts government. Mm-hmm. I think the better approach would be, rather than to go after him and say, you must resign and you're being an embarrassment, to encourage him, since he has acknowledged he has issues and he has problems, which he does, to urge him, to encourage him to go after the help that's necessary, because what he's been doing so far hasn't been enough or hasn't been effective. So he needs something else. We've talked about pals on this program in the past that have had indiscretions. Mm-hmm. But if it's not affecting their 9-to-5 routine, if it's not affecting their on-the-job performance, then I say he should be afforded every chance he has to try to clean up his act. We're all media people here. He's from Sheboygan. I find it ironic that the daily paper there every Friday has a weekly feature where they go out and highlight and profile certain bars and clubs and the people who attend and what they do there. That particular lifestyle is okay for the people they want to interview and put in their paper to try to make money, but he can't do the same. Yes, it can be argued he's an embarrassment, but I bet those aldermen that are going after him, fire and brimstone, I bet they've got some black sheep in the closet that maybe they wouldn't want made public.
Should we be treating him any different than a mayor that had a blood disorder?
I'm with you on that, truthfully. We claim that we recognize that alcoholism is an illness, but we never treat it like one. We treat it like a moral failing is what we do. And this idea that because someone's in the public eye, then we don't have to be as fair to that person as we would be if we were really going to treat this as an illness. We saw that happen with the former president of Milwaukee Area Technical College. First arrest for drunk driving, which is not even a crime in the state of Wisconsin, got him fired from his job. That was absolutely wrong. What should have happened was, encourage him to seek treatment. He was willing. He was, you need to help people, to confront these problems, not make it difficult for them to confront these problems. If they have to hide their failings because it could blow up and suddenly you're getting votes on the city council to drive you out of office for alcoholism. And I'm knowing the Sheboygan lifestyle, as Kevin says, I can bet that, you know, it's not a council of teetotalers. You know, he's made some serious mistakes and he has some serious problems, but now at last it appears that he's at least confronting them.
I wouldn't recall him just because he had too much, or there might have been some embarrassing photos. I don't know if there were, but I'm sure they would have been published by now. I would wait until Election Day and let the people decide and let him run on his record. And that's how I would do it.
Well, but there is the
you
one...
would replace him now.
Well, because there's a legal issue that's out there, too, and that's the accusation that he made some suggestive comments to his sister-in-law, who's also an employee. So, you know, all of this stuff, when you wrap it up all together, I think people of goodwill are willing to give him several shots at trying to get the help that he needs and make the proper adjustments to both his personal life and his political life.
They certainly did in this area with Gerald Klutschka, who came out and said, look, I have a problem.
It happens.
But because he had such a very good record of service to his constituents, they forgave him.
A lot of people
Bob
get shots
Casson
at
as
that.
well as
Yes.
others. Generally, if a politician is willing to admit the problem and to seek help, it doesn't have to be fatal politically.
Right.
But in other cases, it certainly can be.
But you have to make the turnaround, too.
And the problem in this day and age with internet and instant news
It's just
and
junk.
and photographs and what have you and gossip columns is that we generally as a society are looking for the perfect politician, and that individual ain't out there. Ain't out there.
All right, next topic. For now, the Milwaukee Brewers are still in first place in their division. It seems like every single game is a nail-biter. You look at the paper the next morning. Did they win? Are they still in first? They are more than 100 games into a 160-game season. Are you still confident that this team will make it into the playoffs?
Yes.
I am.
Yes. Yes. You know what? The night that Ricky Weeks had his injury, got his injury, which isn't career-ending. It's not going to even be season-ending. But Counsell stepped up to the plate, made some tremendous defensive moves. I mean, no offense from him, but some great defense. And I'll tell you, there were some acrobatics that I can't imagine any other player on that team would have been able to have performed at that level that night. And subsequently, yes, in beating the hated Cubs. That showed me they're serious about this. This second half of the season is going to be a good one for the Brewers, and I do think they're going to make it into the playoffs.
Do they have to stay healthy, or is there any wiggle room for that team?
Well, they're already not healthy in that we just lost Ricky Weeks, one of the three All-Stars. But I will say I did not expect this season to be all about pitching. I mean, I knew our pitching was going to improve, but our pitching it's just getting heated up too. I mean, we got 5 starters. You can't feel bad when any of them's out there. And now we have 2 closers. We have an 8th inning and a 9th inning closer. Right. And if we can make it to through the 7th inning and we're ahead, we win. Right. And it wasn't just the game that he saw with the Cubs, but the game I saw the next day with the Cubs, and the day before he was out there. We swept the Cubs exactly the same way. 3 games, scoring not very many runs, but with great pitching and with those 2 guys closing in the 8th and 9th inning.
When you don't score, you better have good pitching.
K-Rod and Axford. And it shows that you can win even when your offense isn't coming through. It's kind of amazing with all the offensive firepower we have that so many of these are 1 and 2 and 3 run games. But we're making it work. We could use a little help now to fill in for Ricky Weeks, and we just went out and got Felipe Lopez, who played great for us a couple years ago. And
he's older than me.
I think that'll help. No, he's not older than Craig Counsell, as a matter of fact. but Counsell, does do great defensive work filling in, and I still think we might get another. A lot of people want to bring up Taylor Green, a guy from the minor leagues, who's playing third base right now too, and tearing the cover off the ball. I think this team's going to get really even better in the second half.
Do you still worry about when they go on the road, though?
Oh, that's number one. Okay, the pros, they're right there. They seem to be poised and on track to keep this a nail biter right to the end. I think they will be there right to the very end. Cincinnati is not playing as well as they have the last couple of seasons, and they actually seem to be fading. Pittsburgh is quite the surprise, but I don't see them continuing this way. I don't think they have the personnel or the experience. So it might come down to the Brewers and St. Louis. Obviously, they're always in the mix, and maybe Cincinnati can right the ship, but it doesn't look like that right now. But I still have a lot of concerns. As much as I loved seeing them sweep the hated Cubs, it's the Cubs. Let's not get all that excited here, guys.
But I do.
You have questionable depth. It appears now that they cannot put hitting and pitching together in a game in any consistent manner, and they don't win on the road. If they don't fix that, it doesn't matter what they do at Miller Park. You've got to start playing 500 ball on the road, and you have to win the division. You will not win the wild card in this division because the wild card will come out of the East, either Philadelphia or Atlanta. And yes, we do have pitching. It's very good and much improved, but our pitching staff, I'm sorry guys, doesn't match what they have in Philadelphia, Atlanta, or San Francisco.
Are you confident?
It's coming close.
Are you confident that Atanasio and Melvin have done everything that they can financially
what more
to
can
get
they do?
us the players that we need?
Really, they kept Prince Fielder here this year. They're not going to get very much for him when the season ends because his contract's going to run out and he's going somewhere else. But they were willing to do that to keep him here 1 year. So this is the year when they have to take advantage of having him here. Here's some news for Kevin. They just came back from a road trip on which they played 500 ball.
Well, they were about 5 and 6.
And the truth of the matter is that statistic. The trouble with baseball. They keep statistics about everything, and if you add up everything and keep statistics on everything, you're going to see some statistics that don't make any sense at all. And one of those is them winning on the road or not.
Well, winning is the key.
And it is going to get back to the average of what they can play. Some of those games on the road, they're playing in great hitter parks. And they're great hitters. We have great hitters on this team. There isn't any reason why they can't win in those venues. And with the pitching we've got now, too, coming together, including with the bullpen, we've got a bullpen now that if you're ahead, you win.
But you asked about whether they've done all that they can do. I think they have, given the money situation that this club is in. But they need to do even more to improve the club, to give them a better chance of winning. And they can't do it, not because they're not capable or not willing, but there's not that much out there on the free market that is really of high caliber.
They're going to bring Fielder back next year. I disagree with you.
Really?
I do believe that.
Very interesting if they did.
I love you, but you're wrong.
I believe that he's coming back, and I believe that the ownership will step up to the plate.
They haven't done it by now.
And do what? No, they don't want to have that discussion right now.
It's a stretch.
He'll be back.
It'll be a team of one.
Yeah.
All right, let's go from baseball to hardball, political hardball. Senator John McCain has a reputation for speaking his mind, and that's exactly what he did in Washington on Wednesday afternoon. He had some tough things to say about the Democrats, but what really grabbed the headlines was when he turned his fire on those on his own side of the aisle. Rick Horowitz was watching. Rick.
John McCain is distressed. Can you blame him? There he was on the Senate floor unloading on some of his fellow Republicans, House and Senate, for their ultra-hard line in the debt ceiling negotiations. What is really amazing about this, he declared, is that some members are believing that we can pass a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution in this body, that would be the Senate, with its present representation, that would be only 47 Republicans when they'd need 67 votes, and that, he said, is foolish. That is worse than foolish. That is deceiving. He wasn't done. That is not fair to the American people, he said. To hold out and say we won't agree to raising the debt limit until we pass a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution, it's unfair. It's bizarro. Bizarro, he called it, on the Senate floor. And then he urged his colleagues to put aside their Tea Party delusions and actually do some serious negotiating for a bipartisan budget deal. You can feel for him, can't you? When John McCain hurts, we all hurt. And yet, there he was railing against absurd pronouncements against doctrinaire positions right out of Fantasyland, against the kind of soundbite politics that stir the pot but only make it harder to solve the problem. Sounds like Sarah Palin's to-do list, doesn't it? And who was it who unleashed Sarah Palin on the world? And that Sarah Palin attitude and that whole gaggle of Sarah Palin wannabes, Michelle Bachmann and all the rest? None other than John McCain. He put her on his ticket. He made her famous. Dr. Frankenstein, call your office. Dr. Frankenstein, please call your office. You think the debt ceiling fight is more substance-free than it ought to be? More acrimonious than it can afford to be? Thanks Sarah Palin, the mama grizzly, the pit bull with lipstick, with her death panels and her Hopi changes and her Twitter-sized grasp of the world. And John McCain, he's the reason Sarah Palin isn't still tucked away in some distant corner of the continent somewhere. He's the biggest reason Palin and her ilk have 24/7 access to America's eardrums. So now John McCain is distressed at the state of debate in this country. Can you blame him? Blame him.
Thanks, Rick, and thank you so very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of a beautiful weekend.